portion of our June 4th, 2019 West Grey Council meeting. We did start at 9 a.m. this morning for a closed session. We are at this point going to be at item 5, which is matters arising from the closed session. So moved by Councillor for deciphering that for me, Councillor Shea. Interesting signature. Moved by Councillor Shea, seconded by Councillor Herger. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby returns to open session of Council at 10:04 a.m. Questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Does carry. Thank you, Clerk Turner. So we have now recessed from our in-camera session. We will definitely be going back later into a closed session, but that will occur after all of the public portion of the agenda is completed. I do have another motion which is moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby appoints Grace McLeod to the West Grey Economic Development Advisory Committee. Questions? Comments? Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. Before I go to item 6, I do want to identify that we have a quorum for West Grey Council. We have regrets from Councillor Hamilton, so that's just by way of an update during the public session. So we have completed item 5, which is matters arising from the closed session. We are on item 6, which is comment period. Is there any member of the audience that has a comment? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7, public meetings. There is none. Item 8, which is part 1, consent agenda. I do have a motion before me. That is moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that items 1A to 1B inclusive, contained in part 1, consent agenda, be adopted as printed. And further, that the authorization be given for the action to be taken as may be necessary to give effect to the recommendations contained therein. Questions? Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. So at this point, is there an indication that anything from miscellaneous needs to be pulled? And if not, then I am moving on to part 2 of the regular agenda. Clerk Turner. Okay. Again, is there anything, the clerk has just reinforced, if there's any item which is out of the miscellaneous correspondence, there is item C1, just to draw members of council attention, Parachute Canada request to proclaim June 3rd to the 9th, 2019 as Parachute Safe Kids Week. Councillor Townsend.
You have supported this in the past and what council would want to do for the future. So
yeah, good question. Clerk Turner, do you have any history on this?
I should not recall having this request in the previous councils, so I think this may be the initial request. I don't recall Parachute making this request previously.
Okay. Further, Councillor Townsend?
yeah, I would think it would at least be appropriate to determine if council has an interest in supporting it rather than just receiving it as information, because it is a direct request.
So are you suggesting that we go for the 2/3 vote to pull it from miscellaneous as an indication of whether council wishes to address it further? Okay, we could do that right at this time. So with regard to C1, Parachute Canada request to proclaim June 3rd to the 9th, 2019 as Parachute Safe Kids Week. So this would pull the item out of miscellaneous over to new business. So we do need a 2/3 majority. I'm calling the question now. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed, if any? It does carry. So this item will be brought over to item 14 later on in the agenda under new business for discussion, and then it will go on perhaps onto item 16 for notice of motion, and at that point I'll be calling a 2/3 vote if required. All right, so now we are on part 2, regular agenda. This is starting with item 9, communication from mayor and members of council. Thank you. Just some paperwork going back and forth. So to update on item 9, communications from mayor and council, I did attend the Steak, Crab and Lobster Fest, as I do annually. This is an event hosted by the Neustadt Lions Club. Definitely there's other volunteers and associations that assist with this fabulous local event. It was quite enjoyable. I also attended the book launch for Jack Shear. Is that correct? How to pronounce his name, Councillor Hutchinson? Or Shear, perhaps? It's W5. The book is called W5 of Fly Fishing, and that event was at the Durham Library. We've held our strategic planning session last Friday, very successful, quite happy with the results of that. And I was also part of a roundtable discussion invited by Parliamentary Assistant Kinga Surma, who is the MTO Parliamentary Assistant. That was a very successful roundtable discussion on transportation needs, current and future, and also MP Bill Walker attended that. So lots of discussion with citizens, lots of meetings going on. That represents my last 2 weeks. I want to start with Councillor Hutchinson. Would you like to let us know what you've been doing?
Well, I haven't been out there maybe as much as some of other council members. I sort of have some personal commitments right now that are keeping me busy and busy at home. But anyways, I just wanted to mention that the Durham Horticultural Herb Fair is on this Saturday, and you see some signs out there, so hopefully people will get out to that, and hopefully our weather will cooperate. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, please.
Thank you. I echo Councillor Hutchinson's busy schedule as well. It's that time of year we're getting our properties all set so that they don't have to deal with it in the summer. I'm busy out in the communities talking to citizens, seeing how things are going, just making sure the communication's what they're expecting. I think one of the highlights was last Saturday. I did get out to the Elmwood Fire Department breakfast. Got filled up there, and I've seen quite a few people. I think they were open for 7:30, and I believe they had 50 lined up at 7 o'clock to kick it off. So it was quite successful from what I gather. But anyways, that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Shea.
Thank you. As you know, I represented the mayor and council at the Paramedics Appreciation event in Owen Sound. That was great. A couple of our local first responders were getting awards for saving a life in a very dramatic fashion. So I was pleased to play a part in that. Interestingly, people always say that paramedics are the underappreciated branch of the first responders community. I was the only elected official who attended. And it occurred to me that fire and police are both run by lower level municipalities, and so we take great pride in them, whereas paramedics are operated by the upper tier, and so maybe the lower tier doesn't have as much appreciation on the ground or something like that. I'm not really sure why more municipalities didn't send representatives, but I was glad to be there representing you, all of you at the table here.
Thank you.
I also attended yesterday an event at CENCO, the Social Enterprise Network of Central Ontario, seminar in Barrie, and heard a speaker, Sean Lowney, talking about the book's called The Beautiful Bailout. He was talking, the subtitle is, How a Social Innovation Scale-Up Will Solve Government's Priciest Problems. And so this is how small organizations of volunteers working in the nonprofit sector are going to be able to solve things like the health care funding crisis, the homelessness crisis. And he's actually been working hands-on doing this for decades, and the work that he's doing is very inspiring. So when I finish the book, I'll be happy to lend it to you. Yes, that's all for now. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Shea. I do want to reiterate that the Paramedic Services Appreciation Luncheon was very important for me. I was not able to attend, and I very much appreciate that you were able to attend, as you are the, well, for two reasons, quite frankly, that you are Vice Chair of the West Grey Police Services Board, but also you are Council's alternate to Grey County Council. So it was very important to me that you represented myself and Council. So thank you very much for being there. Also, we needed that representation from West Grey to identify to our paramedics that they're important, and this is one way of expressing that. All right, moving on to Councillor Herger, please.
Yes, I also attended the Elmwood Fire Breakfast. Good breakfast put on there, very filling. June 8th coming up, Saugeen Municipal Airport will host the COPA for children. You can come on out, crack it on until about noon. Better in the morning for flying, less turbulence. June 15th, the Ayton Recreation is putting on Ayton Bandstand Dance. Plenty of tickets left. You can get them in at the arena or Granny's General. All the Ayton Rec representatives also have tickets. June 18th, coming up, Golf for Hospice is going to be in Walkerton. The most recent hike for hospice raised nearly $200,000 to support our Southern Grey Bruce Hospice new location coming. Thanks to all those who are beautifying our community behind the scenes through the Busy Bee gardening program. They're getting the gardens prepped and the hanging baskets ready, so West Grey will be beautiful pretty soon. Warden's Breakfast, we had that a week and a half ago in Hanover, and the discussion there centered around transportation announcement and how one of our very own West Grey will be representing us at the county and looking at transportation, public transit for all of Grey. And that's what I have.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend, please.
Yes, I'll start by commenting that I also attended the Lobster Fest, and I actually couldn't believe how much they sold this year. I think it was shortly after 5 they were out of lobster tickets because most of them were purchased in advance. So for those who want to go early, get your tickets pre-ordered or you won't get any. But I think they'd said they'd sold 1,200 tickets by 5, and they were still going strong when we left at 6 o'clock. So again, it's a great successful fundraising event. Also went to the launch pad. I think it's important that we show support for transportation, particularly when we're looking at things like SMART and the challenges they're having. So, showing our presence and participation is critical. Also, there was a presentation on Friday out at the Brockton Recycling Center, which was the reinitiation of the polystyrene densifier process, which allows them to take recyclable styrofoam and actually condense it into about a post size is the way to look at it, a fence post, wooden fence post. And it's easier to store, easier to ship, and it's very, very cost effective way of doing it. The only challenge they have right now is the market. Is there a market for it? Where can it go? And also they're not quite sure the volume they can handle. So speaking to the folks in charge there on Friday, the question was, when can West Grey get involved? And so we have a commitment that 3 months from now that we'll get a report which will basically say what their success is, what the market analysis is, and West Grey may be a party to that going forward. And then they'll work out distribution. They're looking at a radius around that to see who to involve and try to make it more cost effective through volume as well. And that may mean multiple machines, but so be it. The other thing that's interesting is they have a trash taxi bin, and I don't know whether West Grey's ever looked at that, but it is a bin where you can put all your plastic bags and other wrappers in, and they do quite well apparently with that. And it's I think it's $5,000 to have a bin. It has a small hole so you can't stuff all your garbage in there, which apparently they experienced before they went to that level. But they'd encourage you to do that to get rid of your plastics. In addition, excuse me, Saturday I attended the Lions Club Golf Tournament, which is a fundraiser for the Lions Club, and they do enough within West Grey and Durham in specific to help out with things like the walkway bridge and other contributions they've made. So I think it's really positive to support them. I'm pleased to say that we probably had 10 sprinkles of rain all day. So where other areas got it, we didn't. The other thing is that Lions Catch the Ace is beginning again on June 14th, round 3. The first round raised $50,000 and went to the very last week, but it was the first ticket drawn. This one went the full 30 weeks, and it was the last number on the board. It went to the absolute maximum. So whether that luck will continue, I don't know. Others have gone first and third weeks, and you don't make as much. But as a result, they've made almost $80,000 that they will put into the community as a result of those. And it will be Friday. The draw actually occurs at 6:30, but I encourage people to go out and support them, support the Legion, have a refreshment and participate in the 50-50 draw. So it's a great evening. Lastly is on June 22nd is the Durham Healthcare Foundation Golf Tournament as well. And again, there's still tickets and foursomes available at last call. So consider going out and supporting them. They've provided over $1 million to the hospital just from the Durham Foundation alone. That doesn't include the other 3. So they're doing a great job, and well, we're supporting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I definitely have to tune up my golf game to start participating in the different fundraisers, and I'd encourage any other member of council to do the same, and perhaps we can put a team together in next year. For the various events. So with that, always there's a lot going on with West Grey Council and the Municipality of West Grey. Item 10, delegations. There are none on this agenda. Item 11, business arising from the previous meeting. I'm suggesting nothing. I'm looking at the clerk, but members of council. All right, moving on to item 12, which is our staff reports. Starting off with Director of Finance and Treasurer, we have a few items on this report, starting with the approval of voucher number 11-2019, looking, looking to the members, I don't often lose my voice. Looking to the members of council at the table, are there any questions with respect to the vouchers? Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Just one question under the recreation, and maybe maybe our community services person might want to answer this. And I think it has to do with the, it's page 63, high definition screening package. Is that the movie night sort of thing? So that cost of $18.78, that's the cost of the movie to bring that in?
Manager Stewart?
Okay.
Through your worship, yes, that is the cost of the screen to host a movie night.
Just the screen. Is there the cost of buy rights to the movie too? Probably, is there?
No, we have partnered with the movie company in town, so to reduce the cost of that, they are supporting us in participating in the movie event so that we don't have to go out and get an additional license. In addition to the screen, it also comes with all of the technology to produce a high quality video as well. It's not just a screen.
So that's something that the Durham Recreation Committee is promoting as a youth evening, right? To bring your family out and take in a movie.
Correct.
Outdoors.
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
Anything further? Okay. Any questions on this side of the table? Councillor Herger.
On page 60, this question really relates to the busy bees, or if we have a busy bee group for Newstat. The voucher came in, there was one for $1,457 on page 60 for the spring cleanup and of the flower beds in Newstat. And then there was another additional bill for mulching for $1,442. Just wanted to make sure we were keeping that in line with all the other communities.
I'd be looking to Madam CAO or to Director Mighton.
Yeah, so those, it's not necessarily the busy bees, it's part of the maintenance that the Newstead Recreation budget looks after in that.
So in the other communities, do we have busy bees that are doing this job?
Not to that extent, I don't believe.
Of adding mulch and preparing flower gardens, flower beds?
No, they're doing some plantings of the baskets and that, but I don't think they do the mulching and.
Manager Stewart.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the way it is currently working is we have the Busy Bees, who are a group of volunteers who like to beautify their community. They have reached out to me and said that there are some materials that they need for this year, so I have supported them financially so that they can enhance their community as well. From the rest of the community perspective, we have the CBC, which is our Commercial Beautification Committee, who's taking care of our downtown cores, which are the bridge baskets and the hanging baskets, which will be arriving shortly. They both have been planted, we're just waiting to get them out. And in regards to your specific question, the Newstead mulch and the cleanup has been done by a third party because we didn't have staff in place to do that quite yet. We do have summer students and summer staff that are specific to West Grey who will be going around and assisting with any additional cleanup that is required. So our Busy Bees and our CBC and our arena managers can tap into these resources to have our communities be beautified even more. But this specific request came in and it has been paid out of our recreation budget.
Further, Councillor Hergert?
I guess I'm just looking for equity throughout all the communities. So if whatever we do in Newstat, we should do in Ayton and Elmwood, etc.
Further questions, members of council? All right, seeing none, I do have a motion before me, moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance and Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher number 11-2019 in the amount of $596,012.06 of the Municipality of West Grey. Questions or comments? Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Does carry. Director Mighton, you have a few other items left on your report. This one is news release from Bill Walker and letter from Premier of Ontario. I note that it is for information purposes, but do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, no, it just provides some information with the recent announcements from the province, some of their audit and accountability fund, which is geared towards large municipalities and school boards, and they do comment on the municipal modernization fund that small and rural municipalities did get funding through. So it's just sort of for information.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hutchinson and then Councillor Townsend.
Just a question with that for Carrie, our director. So what do they mean by the small rural municipalities to modernize services? Do we have specific projects that we have to apply for? How does that go?
So that's when it was released, it was unconditional, and then it has become known as the Municipal Modernization Grant. We have already received that money, and you used part of it during your budget process, $110,000, and then we'll be bringing forward further projects to offer suggestions on how to find efficiencies and modernization of our operations as well.
So have they now given us criteria? They give us the money, but now are they giving us criteria to say this is how you need to spend it?
They seem to be frequently commenting on criteria, yes.
Seems to be going in that direction. Absolutely. Councillor Townsend, please.
Yeah, I think it's still good that they're providing the money, but again, as you say, right, they're starting to control it. And they kind of did that in the original announcement because they were saying they were hoping you would use it. And that kind of suspects they're going to end up saying you will, with all the stuff they're doing. You kind of look for that stuff. That was one of the concerns about using the 110 the way we did. Hopefully we recover it. We'll see if we do or don't. But another point that I think we should remind the province is that they're asking us to come back with 4% savings. I wonder how much they're doing, not including what they're asking us to do. There's never, a sort of a accountability to the province, to the public, about how much they are actually saving, other than on our backs, other than the lower tier. And I think that would be a very good question to ask our MPP or Premier Ford as to what their target and what their actual accomplishment is so far.
And I think that can come up in a discussion, for sure. Councillor Shea, please.
Well, that discussion won't happen now, I don't imagine, but just to sort of echo what Stephen was saying, I think the line in this first press release, our government was elected to fix 15 years of mismanagement. I think we should remember that we were elected in part to invest in our downtowns, to invest in our rural infrastructure, that we're moving forward. We're not looking to moving backwards. And so if the provincial government wants to have this mandate, they should go ahead. They were elected to do that. I think we can have our own mandate.
Absolutely. And very well said. Thank you for that. Further comments? Well, the item is for information, and certainly we had some discussion within that, so I appreciate it. The next item is letter from SMART regarding preserve dedicated gas tax funding for transit. Interesting.
Yeah,
Director
so the Smart Transit receives provincial gas tax funding, and they use that towards their operations and some for capital. So they're looking at some of the suggestions by the provinces that they will be changing that funding formula or how it comes forward. They were originally the previous provincial government was going to enhance that gas tax funding, and there's maybe some suggestions that they're not going to continue with that. So SMART is looking for a motion to support sending the message to the province that they want to hope that the value will continue in that gas tax funding.
Okay, further? Councillor Townsend.
Yeah, again, they're reducing or at least potentially changing, but I wasn't sure whether the smart motion was implying, because it doesn't specifically state, that the 2% increase that was supposed to happen, are they looking to see that reinstated? And I know it might be seeming, let's protect the plan and not enhance it, but that was on the table. So I think that if we do anything with a motion, I think we should include that and let them say no rather than assuming it's off the table. So.
Okay. Anything further from members of council? I do have a motion before me. It's a rather lengthy one. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Shea. Whereas the Government of Ontario unilaterally cancelled a planned 2-cent increment increase to gas tax transfers to municipalities, and whereas transit systems will not be able to meet the needs of Ontarian commuters if they do not have operational funding to provide convenient, affordable, and reliable services, and whereas the dedicated gas tax for public transportation program has, since its inception in 2004, become an irreplaceable source of capital and operating funding that Ontario transit systems of all sizes count on to serve their communities, and whereas transit systems have, since the program became permanent in 2014, experienced year-over-year ridership increases as a result of service level improvements, and whereas Saugeen Mobility and Regional Transit provides vital transportation service for the vulnerable residents of our municipality, now therefore be it resolved that the Government of Ontario is hereby requested to continue to support transit system across the province, recognizing the economic, environmental, and social benefits of public transit investments. Further, that the Government of Ontario is requested to make evidence-based decisions when considering the effectiveness of current gas tax transfers to municipalities in growing transit ridership across Ontario. And further, that the Ontario government is requested to preserve and continue existing gas tax transfers to municipalities as dedicated source of funding for public transit. Questions or comments? Calling the question. All those, Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Just going what Mr. Townsend said, is the 2% requesting the 2% in there or not? It didn't sound like it. No, sounds like they're just asking to make sure they maintain the gas tax, but not necessarily putting in the extra 2%. So,
would you like to do something about that?
can we amend that to include the 2%?
It's friendly, and I would just look to Deputy Mayor and to Councillor Shea to confirm the friendliness of it. All right. So the wording, would you suggest some wordsmithing, Clerk Turner?
At the end of the resolution, you could state including a planned 2% incremental increase to gas tax transfers to municipalities. So just echoing what was in the first clause of the resolution.
Confirm?
That would be fine.
Okay. All right. We good with that? Mover and seconder? All right. Anything further? Well, I'm calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. And well done. Director Mighton, we are now on the Normanby Arena parking lot tender.
So this item was discussed at the last committee of the whole meeting, and the recommendation that the project be awarded is there for council consideration.
Questions, members of council? Councillor Hergert first.
I just have a quick comment. Last week, when we were at Committee of the Whole, I asked about a trailer that's parked on this parking lot. Anyway, this pavement will not go back that far. I've stopped in and chatted with Tom, and the pavement will not go back as far as where that trailer's sitting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
However, to get to that back access will be continuous use over our new pavement, so I think that needs to be addressed though.
And it will be addressed. Thank you very much. So any further questions before I call the, or before I read the motion and then call the question? All right. Moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby awards the Normanby Arena parking lot project to Harold Sutherland Construction Limited for a total amount of $60,180 to be funded with $50,000 from the 2019 budget and the balance from the Municipal Capital Facilities Reserve as recommended by the Committee of the Whole. Questions, comments, calling the question? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Director Mighton, I think that concludes all of the items on your report. Thank you very much. We are now going to Manager Stewart's report, Manager of Community Services, starting with the item Durham Pavilion Snack Bar Agreement.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, does council have any questions for me regarding this report?
This was before you at Committee of the Whole, our last Committee of the Whole meeting. There's been, so it's up for ratification if council so chooses. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Hergert.
The only thing that I didn't prefer about it was the very first page. It just says our name and it says Robin. It doesn't put anywhere in here. Like a proper agreement would have the lease and the leasee and the lessor. And that's what we're doing here. This is a lease agreement, and it should be just identifying the individuals that are party to the agreement and stating who they are, and then throughout the entire agreement, just running with lessee, lessor. And it's just not set up like a proper contract, but at the very beginning, you could include the names of everybody
Yes.
and just do it that way, I think would be.
That's
Subject to a minor amendment like that, I'm okay with the agreement.
Okay. Could I have a comment from Manager Stewart and then from Clerk Turner based on what Councillor Hergert has said?
Your Worship, that change is fine with me.
Okay. Clerk Turner?
That would be certainly in order.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. Do we have a motion?
That would be considered at the bylaw part, so it'd be to approve as amended.
Very good.
If that's
So we'll see
incorporated.
this again at the bylaw stage. Very good. Moving on to your next report, Manager Stewart. This one is dealing with the 2019 recreation rates and fees.
Thank you, Your Worship. As noted in the report, there have been some changes to the original document proposed. The changes have been stated, so at this time, does council have any questions for me?
Very good. And does council have any questions on that? All right, Councillor Hutchinson, please.
I'm curious, I'm not seeing this report in our agenda. Did I miss something somewhere? The 86?
Are the other members of council confirming that you've received it? Okay.
88?
Yep.
I've got a whole lot of information about education, but I don't see any director's report.
Now, I will pass over the hard copy. Would you like to review it prior to anything
I
further?
would just like to, yes, I'd just like to take a look.
I have confirmed that all members of council on the left-hand side of me have received it. We'll just take a moment, please. Okay, and do you have any questions, perhaps, Councillor Hutchinson, that you would like asked and answered at this point?
No, I don't think so. We had a fairly good discussion at Committee of the Whole, and I think we refined some things, so I think I'm good with it.
Okay. Any other members of council have any comments or questions on it? Like the previous item, this item will come up for consideration at the bylaw stage. Okay? All right. So that does conclude your items, Manager Stewart. Thank you very much for working diligently on these two reports. Now we're on the clerk's report. There is two items, Township of McNabb, Braeside. Clerk Turner, please.
So the Township of McNabb Braeside Council is requesting the province to reconsider the requirement to further require additional on courses for secondary school students that are done online for credits. So there'll be, again, additional requirements for online courses to get the credits through. And it's detailed in their Education That Works for You Modernizing Classrooms document by the province. So the concerns expressed are that certainly not all students have equal access to high-speed internet. There'll be lesser supervision by teachers, so perhaps some students may not be as proactive in getting their assignments done or done on time. And then it even stems down to certainly some thought of maybe the province is just looking at a way of reducing the amount of teachers on the that are provided at the various schools. So looking for council direction.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hutchinson.
Well, just a comment when I read through this. I've taken a lot of online courses in the past, and I think there's definitely merit to taking online courses, but I understand where the union and some of the people are coming from in terms of forcing 4 courses over the course of your education, secondary education. There are some students would find that very challenging, I think. I would like to see them, and I'm not sure how it's will all come down because there's a lot of questions there yet, but I would suggest that they make 1 course mandatory, which they have in some areas. They refer to the United States, make it 1 course mandatory. But again, there needs to be supports in place, and by having kids take their course in the library with some support online, that's maybe the route that they need to go. But as far as mandating 4, there are some students who will take 4 courses and probably take more just because that's the way they learn, and they can do a good job on that. But yeah, it's not for everyone. So I think it's another typical example where government sort of made some changes. They talk about centralizing the where they access to get this course. They don't know what that means. What that means, less teachers, more teachers, or is it going to be 1 teacher in Ottawa that's going to, or in Toronto that's going to organize the courses? So there's a lot of questions with this, but I think in some ways it's not a bad thing. It's not totally new. It's not, there has been online courses for years, but they need to make it work for everyone. So yeah, so some good things and some bad things with this whole idea.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Townsend.
The interesting point without the whole thing is, I'm not sure that there's been consultation with teachers or boards, education boards. One of our daughters is a teacher, and one of her biggest complaints is that when legislation comes in or changes come in, it's done and you're supposed to run with it immediately, and yet you don't have the skill, you don't have the training. If you're going to say that the students are in school now for the next year virtually, all the training that's probably happened has happened. So between now and September of 2020, will they be able to train enough teachers in enough locations on how to deal with problems or issues that students bring forward from online training courses? The other one is they also state in some of the evidence that, as Councillor Hutchinson pointed out, that they're recommending 4. But when you look at the history or the scan of the environment, only 1 jurisdiction has ever done more than 1. So you wonder, there had to be why. I wonder what their experience is and et cetera. And they don't seem to have taken that as well. So the last thing is, I'm glad that you raised the location, Councillor Hutchinson, because the other thing it could be doing is assuming that parents are going to run out, buy laptops or iPads, whatever, and then pay for high speed, et cetera. So is the public able to afford that kind of additional commitment, or do all of these online get handled in the school, which is where the support resource would be? Getting online support is not always easy, and so where you normally find it's used is in a business world where you've got dedicated support to that company, not to a general populace. And it sounds like the Ottawa example has reached out. Now they've got, over 100 different organizations participating in this. I can only imagine, having run support, what that means to that group, and will the students get timely and adequate support? particularly those who have never done this before. So I have all kinds of concerns with it, and I just think that they need to go back, like a few other things they've backed off on, and it's a great idea if you implement it correctly. So I support actually writing to them. I'm not sure that the one that's there is adequately covered all the concerns we've listed, but I do believe the province need to hear from us.
Thank you for those comments. Further? All right, well, I do have a motion before me, and that is moved by Councillor Shea, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports a resolution of the Township of McNabb-Braeside Council requesting the province to reconsider the requirement for online courses for secondary school students as detailed in their Education That Works for You Modernizing Classrooms document. And further, that a supporting letter be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, Minister of Education, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Rural Ontario Municipal Association, local MPP, and the Township of McNabb-Braeside. Comments or concerns? Calling the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. Clerk Turner, you do have one further item, and this one's dealing with the town of Petrolia.
Yes, so for quite a few years, the Ontario Good Roads Association and Rural Ontario Municipal Association, known respectively as OGRA or ROMA, annual conferences were held together. And then a number of years ago, I'm not sure how many years, the time goes by quick, but it was a decision to separate those two. And there has been at times some groundswell to bring those back into one conference. I think the original premise in separating the two is obviously Ontario Good Roads Association is more public works related, whereas Roma may deal with a lot of different governmental issues. So perhaps it wasn't relevant for all attenders at the conference or as relevant all topics. So I gather some decision was made to separate them, but by separating them, it does create some issues, obviously, in how council members or even staff can attend two separate meetings, not only the time requirements, but certainly the additional cost for council and staff time, for instance, being away doing our day-to-day duties. So Petrolia is asking for some support to reestablish the combined OGRA and Roma conferences. I'd look for direction from council.
Thank you for that report. Members of council, comment? Councillor Hutchinson.
Well, I would support that. I think it's, when I first started going to this conference, it was together and then they separated. I think because of the cost of conferences and whatnot, I think some of these need to be streamlined a little bit, and by putting them together, then I think, it means that there's less cost for putting on two conferences. So it seems to be a lot of duplication, I think, in terms of costing and space and so on, registrations. So I would like to see them put it back together again and just make it one bigger conference that meets the needs of all.
Okay, well, the motion is before you there, if you'd consider it. Deputy Mayor.
I would support that statement made by Councillor Hutchison as well, because I've attended both, and I thought there was a lot of overlap. And I also think that there would be benefit to putting it as one, because some of the items in both of them are not really applicable for what I was there for. So I just think it would be beneficial and more educational. All in one. Thank you.
Okay. Further statements, comments? All right, we're just waiting for the motion to come back towards me. Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports a resolution of the Town of Petrolia Council supporting the original resolution passed at the Ontario Good Roads Association, and in brackets OGRA, annual general meeting to reestablish a combined OGRA and Rural Ontario Municipal Association, ROMA, conference. And further, that a supporting letter be forwarded to the ROMA and OGRA Board of Directors. Comments? Calling the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? It carries. Clerk Turner, that does complete the items on your report. We are now looking at the section dealing with proposed bylaws for first, second, and third readings, of which we have 4 up for consideration. You'll note that 2 of them are being considered from Manager Stewart's report. The first one is dealing with the 2019 recreation rates and fees. So, thank you. Just waiting for the motion to be brought back. Thank you, Councillor Hutchinson. I noted that you had a question, but you were receiving clarification from our clerk, and I appreciate you going in that direction as I was just managing the bylaw section, so appreciate that. So we do have the first bylaw for consideration, moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that bylaw number 38-2019, being a bylaw to amend Schedule I to bylaw number 60-2017 regarding recreation fees and charges, and to repeal bylaw number 79-2018, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed as amended and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Clerk Turner, any comment?
There were some amendments when it was originally introduced, so that's why it's being passed as amended.
Okay, any questions on that? Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? The bylaw does carry. Now, members of council, we have had a request from Councillor Hutchinson for a brief break, and I agree with that. So we will just have a break, and then we will come back to council, and we will continue on with our bylaws, beginning with proposed bylaw 39-2019. So I would suggest about a 5-minute break. Thank you very much. Members of council, I'm calling our council meeting back to order. We are beginning back with proposed bylaws. This time it's regards to proposed bylaw 39-2019. I do have a motion before me, which is moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Tom Hutchinson. Be it resolved that the bylaw number 39-2019, being a bylaw to enter into a Durham Pavilion snack bar agreement between Robin Brown / a Durham Ball Diamond Project and the Municipality of West Grey, and in brackets, repeals bylaw number 75-2018, bracket, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed as amended and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Are there any questions on this? This was before us at Committee of the Whole, and we also had additional information through a report today. Calling the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. Okay, so that's dealing with bylaw 39. Now we're taking a jump over to proposed bylaw 41-2019. Clerk Turner, would you just identify why there's a gap in the bylaw numbers for the agenda?
Yes, so bylaws 38 and 39 of 2019 were introduced at the May 21st council meeting. At that time, they were deferred for further discussion, and of course, they were reintroduced at today's meeting. And then on May 21st, the final bylaw that was passed was bylaw 40 of 2019, which was the confirming bylaw. Thus, the gap between 39 and 41.
Thank you very much. So dealing with proposed bylaw number 41-2019, moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that bylaw number 41-2019, being a bylaw to provide for the adoption of the estimates of all sums required during the year, to strike the tax rates, and to provide for penalty and interest in default of payment thereof for the year 2019 be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation and engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions or comments? Councillor Shea. No, thank you. All right. No other questions? Thank you. Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It carries. Thank you, Clerk Turner. And our final bylaw. Moved by Councillor Hergert, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Be it resolved that bylaw number 42-2019, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the June 4th, 2019 council meeting, being now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation engrossed in the bylaw book. Usually no questions here. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It carries. Thank you. That completes our bylaws. Turner, thank you very much. So we are on item 14. This is new business. The first one that I'd like to address is a result of Councillor Townsend pulling C1, Parachute Safe Kids Week. It's a request for a proclamation. We will deal with that. Is there any discussion on this one? For that, do you want to move it forward at the point of notice of motion, starting with Councillor Townsend?
Just a procedural, so we can have the discussion now and then move to, okay.
That's correct. Good for asking the question, though.
Right, just want to make sure we're
Yep.
following the rules.
We always do, but I appreciate the questions being asked nonetheless. So do you have any discussion or question?
I just have a comment that I think that
Please.
the program appears to focus in areas that I think are very near and dear to us with injuries, kids, and whatnot, and I think it's worth supporting. And I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but I'd be interested in moving forward with that.
Okay, thank you. Further? Okay. So we'll bring that, as you've suggested, we'll bring that forward under item 16 in a few minutes then, and we'll see if there's two-thirds majority to address the request. Any new business? All right, thank you for that. Addendum, there is none. So we are now swiftly on item 16, which is notice of motion or direct motion. So with regard to item C1, which is the request Parachute Kids a Safe Week proclamation, Councillor Townsend has pulled this forward, has had the discussion portion of it. Is there a will for a two-thirds vote to bring this as a direct motion? I'm looking for a two-thirds majority on this. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? It does carry. All right, so do we have a motion prepared? Thank you. Clerk has prepared a motion. I'm going to bring it down to you, Councillor Townsend, to begin with. Okay, at the appropriate time. We do? All right, thank you. So, moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hergert. Whereas Parachute Canada's theme for Safe Kids Week 2019 is preventing harm from children's falls in the home and at play, and whereas the preventable injuries are the #1 killer of Canadians aged 1 to 44, preventable injuries are costing the Canadian economy tens of billions of dollars, and whereas preventing harm of child falls in the home and at play is important, falls are the leading cause of injury to Canadian children. Whilst most children falls do not result in death, each year more than 140,000 children are seen in emergency departments for fall-related injuries. Most of these injuries to children under 5 occur in the home. Whereas everyone can follow simple fall prevention tips to our children safe in the home and at play, and whereas Safe Kids Week is a week dedicated to raising awareness and seeking solutions to preventable child fatalities and serious injuries across Canada, everyone has a role to play in creating change among their peers in classrooms and their communities. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby proclaims June 3rd, 2019 to June 9th, 2019 as Parachute Kids Week. Questions? Councillor Herger, please.
Just wanted to note that we have a real asset in West Grey of the Children's Safety Village over at the former Sulphur Springs Conservation Park, and there's quite a collaborative group there that is putting together just all the safety factors, even driving little cars outside for the kids. So it is something that if we just shine a little light on it and raise awareness of it, it is something that we can prevent injury from everyone, young and older, experienced people.
Thank you for addressing it at this time. I think that's very important. All right, any other comments? Calling the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. Are there any other notice of motion or direct motions? All right, thank you very much. So let's see. So item 17, which is closed session, incomplete items only, we definitely need to go back into closed session. Item 18, which is matters arising from closed session, we'll deal with those two items. That's incomplete items only. So for item 17 and 18, we will deal with. But I'd first like to finish the public portion of our agenda. So that takes us to item 19, question period. Members of the audience, are there any questions? All right, thank you very much. So item 20, Municipal Act notices, there are none. So at this point, I'd be looking for a motion to return into closed session. Is that what you're indicating, Councillor Hutchinson? Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Now, I've already identified at the beginning of the meeting, the very beginning at 9 a.m., why we were going into closed session. Those items still hold. So are there any questions before I do call the vote? Calling the question to go back in camera. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. All right, thank you very much. Members of council, I just would like to remind you that at 12 p.m., we will be having a flag raising for the Pride flag. That's good to check.
Steve, the other Steve, come in closer to Christine. Are you ready?
Yes. Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Flag raisings are symbolic, and today's ceremony is no exception. Today, we are raising the Pride flag as a symbol of inclusiveness. I've learned that raising this particular flag delivers two powerful messages for many: the message of acceptance and the message of belonging. So thank you all for being here. Steve, would you please raise the flag?
Some work to be done, Adam.
Well done. Thank you.